You should all have a copy of some notes. It's just a chapter taken from early writings. It's called The Advent Movement Illustrated. If you were to go into early writings, it's a book that we mentioned in class earlier in the week. And what Ellen White does is she takes 3 books, Experience and Views, Supplement and Spiritual Gifts, Volume 1. All 3 books are combined into this combined book called Early Writings. And if you were to go through Spiritual Gifts, you'll see basically the great controversy laid out in chronological order. And around just over halfway into that book, after talking about the Dark Ages, the 1260, she gets to the Millerite history. And the Millerite history is so important, she's going to take 5 chapters to describe that history. And when she does that, it's not just 5 chronological chapters. What she's going to do is she's going to explain that history using this repeat and enlarge technique that hopefully in this movement we've become familiar with. So I'll read out the titles of the chapters, you'll see them there. It's William Miller, First Angel's Message, Second Angel's Message, The Advent Movement Illustrated, and the last one is Another Illustration. So she's going to tackle this subject at least 4 times over. William Miller, the First and Second Angel's Messages, that's the second time, the Advent Movement Illustrated, and then Another Illustration. And the notes that I've given you is the 4th of those chapters, called The Advent Movement Illustrated. I'm not sure how many prayer meetings I'm doing, if this is just a one-off or if I'm taking them over the next couple of weeks. If it's over the next couple of weeks, we'll go through this chapter together. If not, we'll just go as far as we can with this chapter this evening. Sorry? Yeah? Okay, so I think I've got the next few. So what I want us to do is, I want us to basically go through this chapter and identify Millerite history as most of us understand it. So before we read the chapter, let's lay out the Millerite reform line. I'm sure we're all familiar with it. So familiar that I won't even ask any questions. I'll just lay it out, and if anybody's got any questions or they're not happy with anything, please let me know. 1798, 1831, 1816, 1818, 1831, 1833, 1840, 1844, 44 and 44. April, July, August and October. Everybody's familiar with all of those dates, so we all know what they mean. Sometimes we might do this. So this is the time of the end, the increase of knowledge. Sometimes it's marked as a waymark, sometimes a swelling or this increase, this escalation. 31 to 33, the formalization. 1840, the empowerment. April 44, the disappointment. July 1844, midnight cry. and I'll just put October 1844 as a shut door. That's how we would normally understand that. Any questions on that? Was it pretty straightforward? So that's how we would normally draw the Millerite reform line. It's correct. When I say normally, I'm not trying to make any changes to that. But what I want us to do is look at this chapter and see how Ellen White's going to describe this history. And it's, if you've not read the chapter before or looked at it closely, it may come as a surprise to you, some of the imagery that she's going to present to us. Is everybody okay with that? Any questions? So we're on Early Writings, page 240, paragraph 1. Are there any spare copies, or are they all used up? I just want to take one spare one. I've got the same one, but I'm just using a different, slightly different edited version than you've got. Thank you. Just to make sure I keep the same pagination as you do. Early Writings 240, paragraph 1. I'll read the paragraph. I saw a number of companies that seemed to be bound together by cords. Many in these companies were in total darkness. Their eyes were directed downward to earth, and there seemed to be no connection between them and Jesus. But scattered through these different companies were persons whose countenances looked light and whose eyes were raised to heaven. Beams of light from Jesus, like rays from the sun, were imparted to them. An angel bade me look carefully, and I saw an angel watching over every one of those who had a ray of light, while evil angels surrounded those who were in darkness. Heard the voice of an angel cry, "Fear God, give him glory, for the hour of his judgment is come." So where would we place this paragraph? First paragraph, 240.1. Where does it begin? Time of the end? So someone says it begins here. 240, paragraph 1. Anyone else? Does everybody agree with that, or anybody disagree? Just got 240.1, first paragraph. Sister Alyssa says time at the end. Anybody disagree with that? Relatively straightforward. No one knows? Brother James?
Well, while I'm reading it, so just taking the paragraph all by itself, you know, I don't know where it is in relative history, but what I find interesting is that they're bound together by cords, and the imagery that comes to my mind is the harvest.
So they're bound together because we're all familiar with the binding off. It seems to have some kind of imagery connected to harvest. You're not sure where to place the paragraph? Fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. Is it the first angel's message? Yeah? Would you place that at 1798? Time of the end? Yeah? Any other thoughts?
Well, they're in darkness. And the cords, I don't think it's the binding off. I think it's just the fact that they're bound by the doctrines and teachings that have preceded them.
So where would you place this?
At the time of the end.
All of this at the time of the end?
Well, the first one, yeah. The first paragraph.
The whole of the paragraph is at the time of the end?
It's starting at the time of the end, because they're in darkness. But then the first angel's message comes as well, so it's introduced. So it's progressing.
Progressive from what point?
Well, right from the time of the end, and it's just pointing from the time of the end, pointing that way.
So
how far along? I don't
it's from
know.
Here to here.
I don't know if it's all the way to there, but I know
To somewhere.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Anyone else? For James?
Can I add to what I said? It says beams of light from Jesus, like rays from the sun, were imparted to them, and it said there was an angel watching over every one of those who had a ray of light. And so when we look at the Millerite timeline, the only person that had light that we talk about frequently from time of the end to 1816-18 is Miller, and he's singular, and this seems to indicate plural.
So that's just read it. What does that mean? To the placement of the paragraph.
Well, it seems like it would be later.
So you want to place this later.
More than one has light.
Sister?
I would say that God was giving a ray of light to several people during that time period.
Okay.
There was many people that had rays of light at that time.
Wolf?
Yes.
Is that maybe?
What?
Wolf.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As one example. Anyone else?
Even Ellen White was getting rays of light.
Don't think she was born.
Well, no, she wasn't born, not in 79, sorry. I'm thinking of the Millerite, 1840s and on.
Mhm. Prophet Daniel?
Maybe that's when the angel is crying. We know that the angel arrives at 1798, but I think when he proclaims the message, it should be 1840. But the chart says it's 1837, but yeah, 1840 I would say.
So you're making this 1840?
Yeah, because he's crying, you know. Like, the angel first is looking, and then he cries. So there were people receiving the message, and then I heard the voice, not then. Yeah, I think it's 1840.
Okay. Anyone else? Sister Olivine? You agree with I can't say everybody because we've got some slightly different ideas.
I agree that there were many persons that were given rays of light other than William Miller. That can be proven from Great Controversy, chapter 22, where she speaks about Wolf and many others who were given rays of light and doing the work of giving the first angel's message. And this was even, she said that 2 years or 3 after William Miller had received his conviction, which was 1821, she started doing Wolf's work.
Before you go into all the details, just tell me where we are.
So I'm just making the point that I would start, yes, at the time of the end and leading how far into I.
Okay. Everybody in agreement? We're going to start the paragraph here. Yeah? Okay. I saw a number of companies that seemed to be bound together by cords. Many in these companies were in total darkness. Their eyes were directed downward to earth, and there seemed to be no connection between them and Jesus. But scattered through these different companies were persons whose countenances looked light and whose eyes were raised to heaven. Has this angel done anything yet? Is there angel there yet? Last part of the paragraph says, I heard the voice of an angel. Is that angel not doing anything yet? Agree? No angel there yet. Some people seem concerned. Simple question. There's no angel there, is there? Just got some people who are in darkness and some people are bound. I'll read back. I saw a number of companies that seemed to be bound together by cords. Many in these companies were in total darkness. So let's just draw that out. So it says there seem to be a number of companies that I saw a number of companies that seemed to be bound together by cords. Many in these companies were in total darkness. So what would that look like? Here's a company, and here's another company. Company is a group of people. Hopefully if we will agree with that. It says, I saw a number of companies that seem to be bound together by cords. So all these companies are bound together. Okay with that? So I'll put a cord that comes around all of them. And they're bound together by this cord. So a number of companies that seem to be bound together by cords. Many of these companies were in total darkness. Their eyes were directed downward to earth, and there seemed to be no connection with determined Jesus. But scattered through these different companies were persons whose countenances looked light. So in these companies, some of them were in darkness, but scattered through each of these companies, there were individuals, not many of them, that didn't have that experience. I'll take your question in a minute. But scattered through these different companies were persons whose countenances looked light and whose eyes were raised to heaven. Beams of light from Jesus, like rays from the sun, were imparted to them. An angel bade me look carefully, and I saw an angel watching over every one of those who had a ray of light, while evil angels surrounded those that were in darkness. So there's an angel, a good angel over this one and this one, but there are evil angels over all the others. You okay with that? I heard the voice of an angel, fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. So this voice that she hears of this angel, is it before or after she sees all of this? This is after. Okay? So if we're going to mark this as 1798 when that angel comes down, the last part of the paragraph, then I would suggest that the beginning of the paragraph is here in the darkness. It's pre-1798, pre-time of the end. It's not 1798 onwards, it's pre-1798, and the paragraph ends in 1798, not begins there. Brother Bob?
That was my thought. That was
Okay.
what I was going to convey.
So everyone's bound together in these various companies. It's a time of darkness before the reform line begins, and in this history there are a few people who have some kind of light. Then it says, beams of light from Jesus, like rays from the sun, were imparted to them, only to those who had the light before, just to make that point. An angel bade me look carefully. So from that moment onwards, she's going to look carefully, and she saw an angel watching over every one of those who had a ray of light. So there's a good angel that guards those in the light, while evil angels are hovering or dealing with these people that were in darkness. So where we're going to place these beams of light from Jesus, like rays of the sun, were imparted to those people who were previously having some light. Then if we could read that. They had some light before, and now they're going to have beams of light shed upon them. Can we see that progression, if you like, or these two steps? They had light before, now they're going to have beams of light. When the beams of light come, she's told to look carefully, and then she hears the voice. So this paragraph transitions from the period of darkness to the time of the end. If anybody has any objection to that. Next paragraph. A glorious light then rested down upon these companies to enlighten all who would receive it. Some of those who were in darkness received the light and rejoiced. Others resisted the light from heaven, saying that it was sent to lead them astray. The light passed away from them, and they were left in darkness. Those who had received the light from Jesus joyfully cherished the increase of precious light, which was shed upon them. Their faces beamed with holy joy, while their gaze was directed upward to Jesus with intense interest, and their voices were heard in harmony with the voice of the angel. Fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. As they raised this cry, I saw those who were in darkness thrusting them with side and with shoulder. Then many who cherished the sacred light broke the cords which confined them and stood out separated from those companies. As they were doing this, men belonging to the different companies and revered by them passed through some with pleasing words and others with wrathful looks and threatening gestures, and fastened the cords which were weakening. These men were constantly saying, God is with us, we stand in the light, we have the truth. I inquired who these men were, and was told that they were ministers and leading men who had rejected the light themselves and were unwilling that others should receive it. So, for me, I'm not sure about yourselves, the key passage in the first paragraph was the angel says, fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. And you see midway into this paragraph, what's happening? Gets repeated. But it's not getting repeated by the same person, if you like. First time it was an angel, and now who is it? Brother Daniel? Sorry? The group of people. Those who had received the light from Jesus joyfully cherished the increase of precious light which was shed upon them, their faces beamed with holy joy, while their gaze was directed upwards to Jesus with intense interest, and their voices were heard in harmony with the voice of the angel. Fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment come. So the angel, that angel in paragraph 1, is it still sounding? Yeah, how do we know? How do we know it's still sounding?
In harmony is the voice of the angel.
Yeah, the word is harmony, yeah? So it says their voices were heard in harmony with the voice of the angel. So they're both speaking together. Where would we mark that, Brother Daniel? 1840. So we've got 1840 here, and this is 240.2. Only that portion of it. Are we okay with that, everyone? So let's go back to the beginning of the paragraph. This angel has come down. There's this great light that's come. A glorious light then rested down upon these companies. So when this light is resting upon the companies, who is in those companies? People in darkness and people who had light before. And the reason this light comes and rests upon the companies is for what purpose? It says in the first sentence. So it says to enlighten all who would receive. So what's that telling us?
Choice.
Who's got the choice?
Those in darkness.
Everyone. Everyone is now given the choice. If you go back to paragraph 1, has everybody got a choice there? Some were in darkness, some were in light, and then it said, beams of light from Jesus, like rays from the sun, were imparted to them. Who is that light imparted to in the first paragraph? Is it? In paragraph 1? Only those who had the light before. So those who had light before, now further light is imparted to them. So if you're in darkness, you don't even have a choice. Can we see that? So the only people who can receive this angel that's coming down are those who had light in this dispensation, this history. So I find that interesting, because normally when we talk about the period of darkness, we just say everyone's in darkness, but this version of Millerite history says that before the time of the end there are certain people who have light, and those who have light at the time of the end, they're going to receive more light. So these people are going to receive more light, but it's not all lost or hopeless for these people that were in darkness here, because from this point onward in this history, Glorious light is going to rest down upon the companies to enlighten all who would receive it. Some of those who were in darkness received the light and rejoiced. Others resisted the light from heaven, saying that it was sent to lead them astray. So those are still the people in darkness. The people who had the light before, they've received the first angel's message. They're all good. Now this light is going to be sent on everybody, because now the people in darkness are going to have another opportunity. Their first opportunity, not another one, the first opportunity. Some accept, some reject. The light passed away from them, and they were left in darkness. So what's happened here? Those people that were in darkness, they've rejected that light, and the light passes away from them and they're left in darkness. So what's just happened to them? If we want to use that concept of the shut door, so they've now rejected first angel's message, and they're left in total darkness. So this is in somewhere between here and here in this history. There's where this rejection is happening. Whether or not it's specifically in 1840, it's in this paragraph is centered around the empowerment of the first angel's message. The next sentence says, those who had received the light from Jesus joyfully cherished the increase of precious light which was shed upon them. So we can see here what? An increase of knowledge, there's an increase of light. Their faces beamed with holy joy, while their gaze was directed upward to Jesus with intense interest. So their faces are being lit up by the light that Jesus is shedding upon them, and this light is the first angel's message. And their voices were heard in harmony with the voice of the angel, fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. So they're going to join their voices in harmony with the angel that had come down. So we've got to 1840, hopefully we're all okay with that. As they raised this cry, I saw those who were in darkness thrusting them with side and shoulder. Remember, they're still bound in companies. So what are these companies that they're bound in? The churches, or what we might call the various denominations. So all the people that had light, they received light. Some who were in darkness, who had now accepted this light, they're still where? Bound up in their various denominations. And what do we know about one of William Miller's sort of cornerstone policies that he had? He would not call anyone out. He had a non-sectarian policy. He didn't want to form a sect. Everybody could stay where they were, bound in their various companies. So, I don't know if we want to think about what the implications of that has about our line. If you think about what the binding is, you're bound in companies, and Miller says we're not supposed, he doesn't want to pull anybody out of this situation, of their churches, I'll say it as he said it, of their various denominations. He said that this message is for everyone. You just stay put where you are, and just as long as you accept the message, it's all good. And that's what we see here in this imagery of being bound up in these companies. As they raised this cry, I saw those who were in darkness thrusting them with side and shoulder. So, I'm not trying to make any prophetic application of what a side and shoulder is, but what's happening here? There's persecution. Persecution from within. Yeah? Because the people that you're bound up together with are going to now start persecuting you. Why? Because it said before,
Because they think you're going to deceive them.
that it's going to say, they've rejected the light. It's going to tell you why. Then many who cherished the sacred light broke the cords which confined them and stood out separated from those companies. So what's that? That's separation. Do you see where it says fear God in bold? As they raised their cry, I saw those who were in darkness thrusting them beside the shoulder. And it's the next sentence. Then many who cherished the sacred light broke the cords which confined them and stood out separated from those companies. So when you read that, that sounds really benign, doesn't it? Really nice. You're bound up in this company. They start attacking you just because you've got this message which says basically repent and be good. And so you say, well, if you're going to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to cut the ties, cut the cord that binds us with you, and we're going to separate. Want us to see that they didn't get thrown out. So we want to make sure that we see that. They cut out themselves voluntarily.
It says that the righteous ones are the ones that cut the cords.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying that the others did.
No, the righteous ones cut the cords themselves. No one said, okay, we're going to untie and you leave. They're not being told to leave. They're being attacked while they're in there to basically shut them up, because nobody wants them to leave. So they say, we've had enough of this attacking, so we're going to cut the cord and we're going to leave. So just making sure I pick everything up from here. They broke the cords which confined them and stood out separated from those companies. So if you're breaking these cords, what is that inferring? In their mind, if they're going to break the cords, they're not coming back. When they broke those cords, they have no intention to come back and say, well, it's not a vacation they're going on. It's a permanent separation in their thinking. We okay with that? Okay. Next sentence. As they were doing this, men belonging to the different companies and revered by them passed through, some with pleasing words and others with wrathful looks and threatening gestures. So we'll stop there. Who are these men that belong to the different companies that were revered? Who are people that are revered? So these were the leadership, okay, and they're going to use two techniques: pleasing words or wrathful looks. So flatteries, sorry, aggression, sorry, disapproval. So they're going to either take you with flattery or with threats. They're the two options, depending on who you are. And then what do? And then they fasten the cords which were weakening. So the others are breaking the cords. I'll read that bit again. Then many who cherished the sacred light broke the cords which confined them and stood out separated from these companies. So it talks about breaking the cords and standing separate from them. But here it says, and they're going to fasten the cords which were weakening. So the cords aren't actually broken yet. They've just been weakened. So what is this?
No, it does say they broke the cords up above.
Up above it says they broke the cords, but now it says what these men want to do is fasten the cords which were weakening. So here, if you've got weakening cords, they're not quite broken. So there's a bit of a discrepancy there. Sorry?
Could it be that there were those who broke loose and others would seek to go with them, but then so the cords were weakening on some while others had broken loose and they tightened it around those who...
Yep. So what is this tightening of the cords? What would that mean?
More zealous with their church affiliation.
God is with us? Sorry?
Use of influence to keep them in the group.
The use of influence to keep them in the group. Is that what you said? Yes. So they're going to get these cords which have gone loose, and they're going to say, before anyone else escapes, let's get back this cord and tie it up so no one can escape from us. Yeah? And the two techniques they're going to use, flattery and threats. These men were constantly saying, God is with us, we stand in the light, we have the truth. So these are the leaders, or the, how does it say? What kind of men are these?
Ministers and
Revered.
The men that were revered. These revered men, they've got three answers. God is with us, not with these people. We stand in the light, they're not in the light. We have the truth, they don't have the truth. Now just go through each one of those points. We've just read, who's in the light? The people who have left. Who's got the truth? The people who have left. The truth is the first angel's message. You've got this light coming down and it says God is with us. And they're in total darkness. And it said Jesus has been shining light on the others. So you've got three out and out lies. The question is, do they actually believe that or not? They do? Self-deluded? Strong delusion? Okay.
in Desire of Ages, Ellen White said the priests, if she said that when Christ spoke, they knew, especially after his death, they thought, well, this means we are lost. They knew their condition. They deluded themselves, but they knew their condition.
Yep, I think someone said self-delusion. They deluded themselves. Brother Larry.
When you mentioned that they had three things that they said in regards to the light, God is with us, we stand in the light, we have the truth. I'm saying and seeing that they have three tactics to bind the cords, not just two. The three would be pleasing words, wrathful looks, and threatenings.
Okay, yes, yeah.
Yeah, I see three.
Good observation. Now, I just want to highlight, I'm not making any inference about anything. I'm just reading straight out of the Spirit of Prophecy, and this is Millerite history, not our history. But as I'm reading it, I'm seeing a lot of smiles from people, like, hold on. Like, what is he trying to say? And I'm not trying to say anything. I'm just reading this as written, but it stands out so clearly about what's happening. Yeah?
I don't think it is what it is you're trying to say. I think it is what it is many have experienced.
Yes. I inquired who these men were and was told that they were ministers and leading men who had rejected the light themselves and were unwilling that others should receive it. So they're not in blindness, it's not an accident. They saw this light, they had an opportunity of accepting it, they hear the message, they themselves were unwilling to receive this light, this message, and then, so they rejected it themselves. They rejected it, and they don't want anyone else to receive it either. Why wouldn't they want everybody else to receive it? Sorry? Money. Anyone else? A higher motive than money. That's too base. Power and influence, that's a better motive.
Yeah.
Less base than money.
Each time, well, as you said, that was Millerite history. I was going to say, each time you talk to anyone about the first angel's message, where do you return your tithes? What about your tithes? Tithes, tithes, tithes. I've never heard anyone say, well, who is your elder? And what authority does he have over you? It's always, what about your money?
Any comments? Covetousness.
We put it at this paragraph at 1840, but we know that the Protestants began closing the door at 1842. So should we push that a little farther?
So what I've done is, I've put it here, 1840, it begins back here. So I'm going to put 240.1 here. And 240.2, because you want to pick up 42, the work of the enemies. People are leaving, they're thrusting them, they're attacking them. And we're at least up to here. Yeah? So we'll stop here at the end of this paragraph, convenient place to stop. We've still got a couple of more minutes, and I wanted to give us, I know it's not long, to give people the opportunity if they've got any prayer requests